Every night for the last 3 years, an old man has slept in the far corner of the Walmart parking lot on Route 9. Same spot, same shopping cart with the same folded blue tarp. The overnight staff know him as Earl. Nobody knows his last name. Tonight you're the new assistant manager, and corporate just sent down an order. Clear the lot before the regional visit tomorrow. No exceptions. You walk out to tell Earl he has to go. And that's when the district director pulls into the lot in a car nicer than anything that's ever parked here, walks straight past you, and says 4 words that are going to follow you around for the rest of your life. "Good evening, Mr. Whitfield." Earl looks up, says good evening back. Like it's nothing. You're about to find out that the man you were sent to remove owns the building you work in. Not owns like a mortgage. Owns like his name is on the deed. Has been for 11 years, and the corporate visit tomorrow is happening because he called it. Rewind 6 hours. You're doing your first overnight walkthrough as assistant manager, flashlight sweeping the edges of the lot the way your training told you to. Earl's there, same as every night, sitting on an overturned crate beside his cart, drinking coffee from a thermos that's older than you are. You'd heard about him from the other staff. Mostly rumors. Ex-military, someone said. Lost everything in a divorce, someone else said. Nobody actually knew, because nobody had ever really asked, and Earl had never really offered. He nods at you. You nod back. It's the 4th night in a row you've seen him, and the first time you've said more than 2 words to each other. "Rough one tomorrow," he says, apropos of nothing. "Corporate's coming." You don't think much of it. Everyone in the store already knows corporate's coming. What you don't know yet is that Earl isn't repeating a rumor. He's the reason. Your manager pulls you aside before your shift ends. Corporate directive, direct from regional. The lot needs to be presentable before tomorrow's visit, and presentable apparently means empty. You're the one who has to tell him. You almost don't. Something about it feels wrong in a way you can't name yet. But it's your first week with any real authority, and you do what you're told. You walk toward Earl's corner of the lot with the kind of dread that makes you rehearse the sentence 3 different ways before you get there. You settle on something gentle. "Corporate's asking that the lot be clear tomorrow. I'm really sorry." Earl looks at you for a long moment. Not angry. Almost amused. "Corporate," he repeats, like he's turning the word over. They tell you why. Before you can answer, headlights sweep across the lot. A car pulls in that doesn't belong there. Clean, quiet, expensive in the specific way that doesn't need to announce itself. A man in a suit gets out, moves like someone who's used to people standing up straighter when he arrives, and walks directly past you like you're part of the parking lot's furniture. "Good evening, Mr. Whitfield," he says to Earl. The world tilts slightly. You look at Earl, the tarp, the shopping cart, the thermos, and then at the district director, standing there in a suit that costs more than your monthly rent, addressing this man with something that looks uncomfortably close to deference. "Evening, Daniel," Earl says. "You're early," Daniel explains, mostly to you now, because he's noticed your face doing something complicated. Earl Whitfield has owned this property, the building, the lot, the ground underneath both, for 11 years. He bought it as part of a commercial real estate portfolio built over 4 decades, back when he ran logistics for a regional distribution company, before selling his stake and quietly reinvesting it into properties like this one, dozens of them, across 3 states. The corporate visit tomorrow isn't a regional inspection. It's Earl, coming to check on his own building, the way he does every few months, the way he's done for 11 years without a single person on staff ever knowing, because he never once mentioned it, and nobody ever thought to ask the man in the parking lot if he might own the parking lot. Why? You finally manage. Would you sleep out here? You own the building. You could sleep inside. You could sleep anywhere. Earl takes a slow sip from the thermos before he answers, and it's not the answer you expect. My wife passed 11 years ago, Earl says. Same year I bought this place, actually. House felt too big and too quiet at the same time, which doesn't make sense until it happens to you. He'd tried the house. Tried a condo after that. Tried, for exactly 11 days, an assisted living community his daughter had picked out, full of very nice people he had nothing in common with. None of it fixed the specific kind of quiet he was trying to get away from. Out here, there's always something happening. Somebody's cart's got a bad wheel. Somebody's kid is having a meltdown by the registers. Overnight stalkers taking their smoke break, arguing about a ball game. He shrugs. It's noise. Good noise. I like being near it more than I like being comfortable. This is the part of the story that doesn't fit the shape you assumed it would have. You'd been braced for tragedy, a fortune lost, a fall from grace. The kind of story that explains a man sleeping in a parking lot as something that happened to him. Instead, you're getting something closer to a choice, made by someone with every resource in the world to choose otherwise. Daniel, the district director, fills in what Earl leaves out. Earl doesn't just own this store's building. He's quietly funded a scholarship at the local community college for 11 years, always anonymously, always routed through a foundation with a name that gives away nothing. He's the reason 2 employees at this exact store had their kids' medical bills covered during a bad year, again anonymously, again through channels nobody traced back to a man they walked past every night without a second look. None of them know it was you, you say? That's rather the point, Earl says. You ask the obvious question, why not just tell people, if he's doing this much good anyway? Wouldn't it help for people to know? Earl's answer is the same principle, stated a different way. The moment people know, it stops being about the person receiving it and starts being about the person giving it. The corporate visit happens the next morning, except it isn't really an inspection. Earl walks the store the way he always does, checking in with the same overnight staff who've been quietly pitying him for years, asking about the bad cartwheel, remembering the name of the stalker's kid who's been sick. Nobody recognizes what's happening except you and Daniel. To everyone else, it just looks like Earl, doing what Earl does, being the guy from the parking lot who somehow always knows what's going on with everybody. Your manager finds you afterward, badly needing an explanation for why the man he told you to evict is currently being walked through the store by the district director like visiting royalty. You tell him the short version. He goes pale in a way that's almost funny, if it weren't also the most honest reaction anyone's had all day. The directive to clear the lot quietly disappears. Nobody rescinds it out loud. Corporate things rarely get undone with an announcement. It just stops being mentioned, the way inconvenient instructions sometimes do when the person who issued them realizes who they were actually issuing it against. You ask Earl, before he leaves, the question that's been sitting in your chest since the headlights first swept across the lot. Was there ever a moment last night, when you walked up to tell him he had to go, that he considered just telling you who he was? Would have been easy, he admits. One sentence, and you'd have apologized and walked away, and none of this would have happened. Why didn't you? Because I wanted to see what you'd do, he says. Whether you'd actually make me leave, or whether you'd hesitate. You hesitated. That told me something. Not about me, about you. 3 years later, because the story doesn't end with the corporate visit, it just becomes the beginning of one you carry. You're the store manager now, the actual one, not the assistant. Earl still sleeps in the same corner of the lot most nights, thermos and tarp and all. You've stopped being surprised by it. It's just Earl, doing what Earl does. You've learned things about him in the years since that first night that nobody else on staff knows, because you're one of maybe 4 people who know the whole picture at all. You know he still funds that scholarship. You know 2 more employees quietly had emergencies covered that never made it into any conversation beyond a grateful, mystified thank you note that went nowhere in particular because there was no return address. You've also learned something about yourself that you didn't expect to learn from a man in a parking lot. The version of wealth Earl actually has isn't the buildings or the portfolio or the 11 years of quiet checks written through a foundation nobody can trace. It's the fact that everyone who knows him actually knows him, not the deed, not the name on the paperwork, knows him as the guy who remembers your kid's name and asks about the bad cartwheel. That's the asset he actually spent 4 decades building. The money was just what let him afford to keep building it his way. The lot's still there. Same corner. Same tarp, though you replaced the crate with an actual folding chair 2 winters ago, and neither of you ever mentioned it directly. Somewhere in your city right now, there's a version of this exact configuration. Someone quietly holding more than anyone around them will ever suspect, choosing, deliberately, not to be recognized for it. You'll probably walk past that person today. The only real question is whether you'll hesitate the way you did, or whether you'll just keep walking.